You know, I'm kind of glad that we're nearing the end of Suicide Squad's roadmap of expansions. It'll free up my time to talk about the other crappy games on my backlog. I've got a dumb elevator shooter for the Wii, more Kinect garbage, an atrocious horror game donated to me by my friends who also want me to play War for Cybertron. Instead, I'm here talking about the same game for the 5th time, and it's not even going to be the... Oh crap, this is the 6th time! I lost count! We're actually covering 2 expansions for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League because Rocksteady have managed to crap 2 new episodes since we last checked in 2 months ago. Episode 5, Thieves, and Episode 6, Scoundrels, which combined to form Season 3, the Season of Lawless, aka How is this game not dead yet? Season 3 begins with a cutscene of Zoe Lawton, Deadshot's daughter, who has apparently become a live-streaming thief and social media-obsessed influencer because that's just modern writing shorthand for young people. Zoe dubs herself Lawless and heads to Metropolis to help fight Brainiac, but she gets stuck trying to save Green Lantern and the squad has to save them both. And of course, you do this by grinding the so-called new missions until an arbitrary rank is high enough to go fight another Brainiac. Yippee. As before, the only missions that earn you halfway decent gear and progression are the incursions, which, this season, consist of a survival mode, 2 canon missions, 2 fights against random minions, and 2 fights against brutes. Yeah, the mission types remain stripped to the bone. But there is actually something new to talk about there. After months of cheaply reskinning the same generic city maps, Season 3's incursions actually take place on some new levels, specifically levels meant to look like major locations from the Batman Arkham games. Several incursions use an environment that's basically the overworld from Arkham Asylum, with other environments looking like major locales from Arkham City and Arkham Knight. It wouldn't at all surprise me if these environments were just ganked straight out of those games to save time and money, but son of a bitch, it is such a relief to finally have some new-ish levels for something different. One of the levels even takes place on a series of floating islands. That's the freshest thing to happen since they ditched the Gizmo cars. Although it is all grimly ironic and maybe a little depressing that Rocksteady is literally cannibalizing their own legacy to try and prop up the game that's killing them. Oy. Aside from the new maps, the actual gameplay of Episode 5 is unremarkable. The enemies are back to normal after Episode 4 inexplicably buffed everyone but you with triple the health as normal. It felt like we were getting less XP than usual, but I have no hard data to confirm or deny that. I got a Catwoman minigun with good damage output. The rest of the gear seemed meh. We're 5 expansions in, with tons of sets of gear giving special bonuses for particular loadouts, and it still feels like it doesn't matter what gear you equip apart from the numbers. Gear set bonuses still feel like passive buffs with such specific activation requirements that you never notice them actually doing anything. I'm keeping Mrs. Freeze with a Killer Frost set bonus, mainly just to keep on theme at this point. I listened back to our 3.5-hour game session, and I had exactly 3 takeaways regarding Episode 5. For one, the game has a strange habit of dumping tons of hit squads on you in a row, which is such a half-baked mechanic that it barely even matters aside from boxing you in. 2, the game is still dropping rocks and icicles on your head every 10 seconds just to be a shit. And 3, enough of the damned lava already, you cheap shitbag morons! This has been a thing for multiple expansions now, but incursion maps have rivers of lava that kill you instantly, cranked up to 11 in these Arkham missions, where you can also fall off the map chunks into an endless void. That doesn't sound like a problem, but here's the thing. Enemies knock you back all the friggin' time. The entire game is built around flight traversal and loaded down with snipers that disable that flight, which sends you plummeting helplessly down into lava and pits. And that's on top of enemies that just knock you out of the sky into more lava. And do you see what I'm getting at here? Enemies just flat-ass huck you into the lava non-friggin' stop for cheap instant kills, and there is nothing you can do about it. And between that and rocks and stalactites raining down from the sky every few seconds at all times, the game becomes an endless cacophony of cheap, annoying damage that never freaking ends. It seriously feels like Rocksteady's best idea to spice up the combat was just to huck random bullshit at you nonstop and hope that does something. The game will even clip through walls to drop you into lava because you weren't dying fast enough. The thing that blew our minds, though, is that unlike the Joker and Freeze expansions, Lawless adds actual story content. You have to play 3 specific levels before you're allowed to challenge the new Brainiac, and at the beginning of each level, you get an actual cutscene. Yeah, Lawless gets on camera, the game follows her breaking into Brainiac's ship and rescuing Green Lantern and needing cover on her way out, complete with you being locked down to a walking speed while the cutscenes play out. New maps and actual story content. I'm starting to think that Joker and Freeze's expansions were phoned in on purpose, while the whole dev team's focus was on part 5. Also, let's not bury the lead here. Can somebody explain to me why you rescue Green Lantern in an expansion that's themed on the most famous and beloved Batman games ever made? There's even a cutscene where Green Lantern gets free, but the squad dicks around until GL falls off a cliff and drops into a portal into an unknown other dimension, so we can save him in part 2. They finally realize that the second half of the season should probably have an actual point. Although there is a slight problem with the Green Lantern cutscene. Setting aside that he shouldn't have his costume if he's missing his ring, why is the real Green Lantern still all zombified and veiny like his brainwashed clone? Wait, I think he even still has a bullet hole in his head! So, did we kill clones and we're rescuing the real Leaguers, or did we kill the real Leaguers and they just didn't die when we shot them? I'm not sure they ever answered that basic question of what's going on in the story. This is how you can tell that most of this expansion was finished in advance. They had new levels and new story cutscenes, but no time, money, or manpower for a living Green Lantern. The Brainiac fight is a hybrid of Green Lantern and Superman. When he's Green Lantern, he perpetually hides behind an everything-proof shield, and when he's Superman, we'd shred his health bar like it was made of Kleenex. Man of Steel, my ass! This is the fight that had to be scrapped from episode 4, by the way, directly copying pre-existing bosses, and it still doesn't seem to work right. And then you rescue Lawless, and as is tradition, we get a cutscene of her joining the Suicide Squad.
Have you ever even seen the bomb in your heads? Y'all are the ones who let a shady government agency strip you entirely of your rights. You let them inject you with a thing you didn't understand. And you ran headfirst into literally an apocalyptic war zone.
I thought it was the best way to see you again. These fools.
Dad! Please. This is important. Okay, your bodily autonomy, right? I mean, what is even keeping you here? What's the Wi-Fi password? General Boy Scout?
Wow, that was physically painful to watch. Lawless is introduced shit-talking the entire squad like they're the dumbest bastards on the face of the earth for trying to save the planet, mocks Waller's tactics as if to imply that she knows better than the highly trained Black Ops Commando unit, thinks it's the squad's own fault that Waller is blackmailing them with brain explosives, throws in multiple thinly veiled jabs at vaccines. She wants to fight Brainiac because it would be like so totally cool, and she gets off on throwing around the word colonizer.
Brainiac's been doing this mega colonizing shtick. How many people get to say that they robbed an alien colonizer? Fuck his colonizer shit.
The only squad members that are against her joining are Captain Boomerang, long established as the moron nobody should ever listen to, and Deadshot, who's apparently not allowed an opinion on anything because he's an absentee dad. And then both Waller and Flag, in dialogue exchanges afterward, unanimously treat Lawless as the only intelligent or competent member of the team.
Teach these idiots how to really get under Brainiac's skin. Would you, Lawless?
With Lawless lamenting more than once that everything would go so much better if they just did everything that she said. Rocksteady, were you trying to make Lawless as unlikable as possible? This is a teenage thief whose only job is being a social media influencer. She's got less subscribers than I do. and she's marching into a full-blown alien invasion to order trained soldiers and generals what to do. And the entire game treats her as being 100% in the right for doing so. Oh yes, Teeny Bopper, tell us how to save billions of people from a technologically advanced interdimensional warmonger. Your Twitter subs will surely turn the tide in this war. Let me put it this way. If the Avengers were battling Thanos and Captain Marvel showed up to offer help and battle strategy, you would say, yes please. She's strong, she's got decades of experience, she has mastery of intense power, she knows what she's doing. But if Cassie Lang, who's barely ever been in a fight or ever used her powers, tried the exact same thing while calling the Avengers morons, you would want to punch the stupid bitch. Even her interview audio logs are insufferable. Flag and Waller make a huge deal about how super smart she is. Waller raves about how Lawless will be as big and important as her one day. And when Lawless refuses to answer any questions with a head up her ass, well, how do you define that deflection? Everyone just reacts like she's way too smart for any of them to hope to interrogate her. How in the hell did this moron make the cut for DLC? Here's the thing, while Zoe Lawton has been a minor DC Comics character tied to Deadshot for a long time, there is no DC character called Lawless. Not unless you count a World War II soldier who was a minor character from a single comic in 1989. For all intents and purposes, Lawless is an original character created exclusively for the game, which explains a whole lot about this expansion. Lawless was obviously intended to be the game's breakout character, the star that's so popular that they migrate to the comics and cement a lasting legacy for the source material, like how Batman the Animated Series invented Harley Quinn and the modern Mr. Freeze, or how the only reason anyone remembers Marvel's Ultimate line is because it created Miles Morales. Episode 5 appears to be the expansion where all the dev team's post-launch effort went because they wanted Lawless to be as big a deal as possible. That's why she gets multiple cutscenes of build-up. That's why the entire game stops to gush over how she's the single most important member of the team. You're supposed to be super impressed so that Lawless makes the jump to comics and shows and everywhere else. The key that Rocksteady didn't understand, however, is that breakout characters are usually made on accident. Harley was only invented so Joker could have a more prominent goon for one episode, and Miles Morales was only made because Marvel wanted to reboot a Spider-Man book. They weren't designed to be popular. They became popular because they were made to tell stories that turned out good. So when you go the Lawless route of openly shitting on everybody to scream, "Look how awesome she is! Don't you want this character to appear everywhere?" That is a one-way ticket to history's trash bin because it's obnoxious and annoying. Made worse by the fact that Lawless herself is immensely obnoxious and annoying!
I gotta let this tech recharge before I look bad on stream.
Yeah, so how does Lawless play? I'll put it this way. We all switched back to our old mains the second that episode 5 was over. Lawless's shtick is that she uses stolen Brainiac technology that kind of lets her control gravity, so her traversal is an anti-gravity machine, and her melee attack is a gun that fires slow motion. For traversal, Lawless floats around while tumbling like she can barely control it and should be puking her guts out. It feels slow, it's incredibly slippery to control, like it takes forever to change direction in midair. She can't run, and there aren't any upgrades to increase your airtime, so she can barely recharge her flight meter. In my time using Lawless, it seemed like she had a really hard time harvesting shields, which means you have to make do with perpetually low health, and as a result, it felt like she could barely fight brutes. She kinda almost gets a few passive buffs from using the Electrify ailment. They don't really seem to do anything. Her traversal move also barely seems to hit any enemies in exchange for a skill that recharges the useless attack slightly faster. I wonder if Lawless was meant to be played as a support class, because kinda sorta stunning enemies with her melee hits appears to be the only thing she's good for. I mean, sure, she can button mash melee through groups of the basic soldiers, but friggin' any character can do that. Honestly, I think the only reason that there were a few times that Lawless kinda seemed halfway good is that Rocksteady gives her a hacked gun when you unlock her. I'm not even joking here. When Miles and I got Lawless, she was inexplicably carrying a sniper rifle that has roughly triple the damage output of any other weapon in the game. Or at least any other weapons that I've got. And Schnick got a hacked pistol that was the same way. He gave it to Deadshot. They were so desperate to push this character, they actually hacked the weapon loadouts for her. Probably as a last-second patch. So yeah, pretty quickly I went back to Mrs. Freeze, Schnick went back to Deadshot, and Miles, the only one of us who could stand Lawless, went back to Harley and promptly got stuck in. God damn it, Captain Boomerang, you screw up everything! To prep for this video, I played episode 5 alone for about an hour and a half. Got bored off my ass. Turns out that a few new maps don't change the fact that you're still playing the same handful of identical missions, in the vain hope that the game drops some gear that's even remotely useful.
I only got 2 items, an assault rifle that sucks monkey butt, scrap that, and a shield mod that sucks monkey butt.
I got an SMG from Catwoman.
Does it suck monkey butt?
Yep. Actually, it's actually worse than my Two-Face SMG, by the way.
I got a shield that sucks monkey butt. And I got a sniper rifle that sucks monkey butt.
A lot of monkey butts getting sucked tonight, damn.
I think I have definitive proof that Rocksteady watches my videos, though. In my coverage of episode 4, I called out a bug to where the AIs are prone to just sitting on ass doing nothing and leaving you to die. And even when they work, they barely help you. Well, now all of the AI partners teleport next to you non-friggin' stop to prevent that very thing from happening. And they'll even teleport across the map to take out snipers for you, if this clip is any indication. Except now it's actually kind of annoying because they were constantly kill-stealing, getting in my way, and at times just about playing the game for me. Like I would try to go shield harvest a brute only to find that King Shark was already in the middle of a long-ass execution animation. I can kill stuff myself, you overzealous bitches! I decided to close out my exploration by playing the hardcore survival mode with Mrs. Freeze. I played for a little over 20 minutes, completely made the mode my bitch to where I was never even close to dying, and then I got shot with one of those beams that disables traversal and fell down a bottomless pit with zero chance to save myself. Apparently the hardcore mode means you lose for dying once, so I failed the mission and got screwed out of rewards. Yeah, turns out the huge Arkham map where multiple arenas are floating in an insta-kill void really sucks balls for a survival mode. I kept running out of enemies to kill and had to scour the map trying to guess where the hell they all spawned, and then the navigation that the game forces on you can arbitrarily kill you at any time. I think we're done here. Episode 5 of the expansions added some story content and a few new maps to at least feel different, but that feeling only lasts an hour or so before it hits you that you're still just playing the same game. Only now you can use a terrible character that you can't stand. Another character for the game to drop loot for so that you get useless rewards. This is the expansion where the bulk of the developers' efforts went. And that's just kind of sad.
Yeah, I'm
You were saying.
I just saw Jado dancing here, so I wanted to join.
I'd say that was the last thing. That was the thing I wanted to do.
Okay, let's do that then.
Before you start singing,
let me
can I just
see.
say, I like how Harley's watching from the shadows and she just looks bored.
honestly, you need to use that clip in the eventual video after Walking Dead is done. And now she walks away.
Yeah, I'll clip that.
She's had enough of this. She's like...
Because it's like, here we are trying to have fun, and Harley Quinn's like, I'm bored.
The second half of the season, episode 6, Scoundrels, dropped with no announcement whatsoever around November 5th, and if you think that's bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. It opens with a cutscene showing how Lawless is fitting in with the squad, and to my bewilderment, she says that she wasn't planning on joining the Suicide Squad. Yeah, she didn't mean to join, she just marched right into their active war zone, inserted herself into their mission, and then walked straight into their base to directly ask to join! And then she says she doesn't even know why she's here.
What am I really gonna do here? Am I getting dirt on Argus to hold them accountable once this is all over? Am I being where I'm needed? Am I just going to go? For now, It's just vibes.
Oh, we all know why you're here, Zoe. Fighting colonizers is obviously your wet dream come true because you were written by people whose entire knowledge of African American youth comes from watching the Black Panther movie. It's like they realized that they pushed too hard in part 1 and tried to fix it by just making her stupid. Anyway, this expansion added nothing, and I mean even less nothing than usual. All of the gear drops are items from the base game and the first 2 expansions. They just have a tier 4 label slapped onto them. That doesn't mean jack shit. Seriously, side-by-side comparison. Tiers don't mean a damn thing. Like, every expansion prior to this at least added some new gear, and now they can't even do that. We reached the new Brainiac in an hour and a half, and he's a direct copy-paste of Superman. And they couldn't even reuse a boss correctly. In the base game, Superman takes damage really slowly until you land counters to build up gold kryptonite so that he takes damage faster. The Season 6 Brainiac does that too, but he also has much less health by default. So if you land a few counters, your weapons rip him to shreds, and the fight only takes a few minutes. Whoops. There are 6 quote-unquote new incursions on another map made of shredded and reused Arkham maps. 1 fight with brutes, 4 fights with basic enemies, and a single of those annoying watchtower missions. That's it! The only vaguely noteworthy content here is a fight with Batman-infused enemies in Arkham Asylum's Batcave, which sounds cool until you realize it's friggin' nothing but invisible snipers and brutes that explode. An entire fight of trying to find enough enemies while getting bitch slapped by cheap shots. Oh, and I wanted to give the game devs credit for having to alter the maps to add lava and shit. This Batcave map made me realize they just took the Arkham maps and replaced all the water with lava. I think the rest of these locales are pulled from Arkham Knight, the entry I've played the least, so I didn't even recognize most of them. They're totally going to reuse these Arkham maps for Season 4 when we rescue the Batman, aren't they? They can't afford any more weapons or gear. I highly doubt they'll scrape together the funds to make a new map for us. The survival mode for Episode 6 takes place on a massive map of reconstituted Arkham environments floating in a void where the enemies only spawn in one location at a time, and you have to keep stopping to look for where the damn game is happening. And one of the islands where enemies can spawn is so freaking high up in the air that none of the base game characters can reach it. This mode appears to be literally impossible unless you're using a DLC character. Crap in a hat! The one thing at bare minimum that we were expecting was a cutscene of rescuing Green Lantern. Last we saw of him, he was falling into a portal to an unknown dimension, so clearly we still have to track him down and complete the rescue. Obviously, we'll save Green Lantern when we defeat the new Brainiac. Of course not. You kill Brainiac and it just dumps you back at headquarters again. So, on a pure guess, I had our group check the back of the Hall of Justice where the Flash is recuperating, and you're never gonna believe this. Sure enough, Green Lantern is there for absolutely no reason.
Let me see. I see the... Wait, he's there! He's there!
What?
He is there!
So there's no cutscene for... There's no cutscene of us rescuing him?
He just magically poofed. We don't know how he got here, but he's here.
Oh my fucking god.
That is
Pathetic.
That is unacceptable.
This game keeps finding ways to amaze everybody.
There isn't so much as a single line of dialogue to let you know that he's back there. In fact, I looked it up. You actually get GL at some point in episode 5. We just didn't know to check. How do you screw up that badly? I think it's safe to say that we're finally seeing the effects of Rocksteady's layoffs and the game's support team being cut to the bone. Everything that wasn't finished months in advance has to be hurriedly repurposed from old expansions and old games, or just left out entirely. And if you're thinking that these expansions are bare bones because they were focused on bug fixes, no. The first thing, literally the first thing that happened was the main menu glitched to where Schnick and myself were trapped on a screen that tried to load the episode introduction and the squad loadout at the same time. Miles had nonstop problems with his guns dumping out all of his ammo. Miles experienced rampant lag that may or may not have crippled his voice chat. You have to take down 2 cannons to reach Brainiac in episode 5, and the stupid-ass game can't even make sure to spawn enough enemies to make the level playable. For virtually all of episode 6, we were glitched to where we couldn't use special attacks. Miles and I couldn't use traversal moves, and Schnick couldn't do the suicide strike. When we tried the episode 6 survival mode, we had all the enemies glitch at once to be stuck in the ground. Schnick got thrown into and stuck in a damn tree. Episode 5 was pretty stable, not surprising given that it's clearly where the most development went, and I can only assume we'd have seen more episode 6 glitches if it weren't shorter than 2 hours. It's pretty clear at this point that Rocksteady had most of the characters, audio, and etc. for these expansions recorded long in advance, and there's some kind of contract dictating that it all has to be released. So the Deathstroke expansion where you rescue Batman is pretty much assured to come out. How phoned in it is another story. But my question is, what happens after that? Rocksteady's roadmap accounted for 4 seasons of DLC, and then they were going to talk about setting up a new story after Brainiac was done. Oh god, they actually thought this crap was going to continue. Deathstroke's in the can, sure, but another season is still going to leave us with 4 living Brainiacs, 1 missing Superman, 1 dead Wonder Woman, and 1 thoroughly fucked Arkham universe. The stuff that's been confirmed to release doesn't include an actual ending, and if episode 6 is any indication, we're way past having no gas in the tank. We're even out of fumes at this point. There hasn't been a new mission or enemy type since episode 2. They can't afford new weapon models anymore. They have to ransack their other games for new maps. They can't afford critical cutscenes or even dialogue. And all this is after rescuing the Flash was relegated to a series of still shots. They can't even afford a non-zombified Green Lantern model when they already had one in the game's extras. Unless they made more progress on an ending before release than we know about, I don't see how this ends any other way than a text wall or a comic book tie-in. At this point, I think we'd be lucky to get an animation like they use for introducing new episodes. This game is not going to end, it's just gonna stop. And mark my words, that fat lady is warming up.
I feel like with how shitty this game is, one of you should like a shit song from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A huge supply of tears come from my chocolate starfish. How about some scat, you little twat?